Hello and welcome back, consumers. I'm Eltari, the professional gamer, and this is another PAX Friday review, the show where we talk about all of the fun, interesting, new, and exciting information that has dropped for PAX Day over the last week. This week, we had another section of our PAX Day Wilderness Alpha developer interview series, and we were specifically talking about PvE and exploration. And if you haven't checked out those videos, we have both the full interview, which I think is over 25 minutes, and then we also have about 22 minutes of just straight gameplay footage alongside a commentary from yours truly. That has a lot of interesting insights for many of you who either didn't play in Alpha 1 or are looking for some of the differences between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. I try and point out a lot of those in that gameplay, so you should definitely go and check that out. But for today, we're going to be going over the most recent blog post covering everything that there is to do about maps and all of that. So before we get into all of that, if you haven't done so, don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel out. Subscribe so that you can get notified whenever we come out with new content, and share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in PAX Day. Next week, we are going to have another interview section. It's going to be on crafting, and that's going to be a really interesting one. There are some pretty big changes that are coming along for crafting in the Wilderness Alpha, so you'll want to be tuning in for that. So for now, though, we're going to be covering all of today's weekly update. I'll see you over there. All right, and here we are at this Friday's blog post from the developers, and today we are going to be talking about the Wilderness Alpha's zones, provinces, and home valleys, and a little bit of stuff has changed. The maps themselves have tried to remain relatively similar to what we've seen previously. However, there are some very key differences between all of those maps, and I think it'll be really useful for everyone to see all of that so that you can start planning with any of your clan mates to decide where you all are going to go, what shard you're going to be on, and all of that. All right, so the first bit here is the region. Now, there are two specific regions that are going to be in this test. You have both EU and the US. I believe the US servers are on the East Coast, if I remember correctly, and then EU is just in Central EU, if I recall. And those are obviously subject to change until the actual alpha comes out. Then we have the shard. Now, the shard is the exact carbon copy of the world. It's just a different server or partition of said world. So anything that goes on in that shard is in and of itself its own unique thing. You will not see other players' buildings or see other players from other shards. They're separate entities in entirety. So it's important if you want to be playing with a specific group of players, or maybe you want to be playing on the same server as some potential enemies, then you're going to want to either be doing the planning or the recon to find out where people are going. And then lastly, we have the province and home valley. And we still have the 4 provinces that existed from Alpha 1, and that was Ancien, Mary, Caries, and Innisgallia. And there is the addition of Lyonesse, but Lyonesse doesn't have the opportunity for people to build in it. It's a PvP only zone. There is currently no building that is allowed in Lyonesse. So that pretty much means you have your 4 province choices, and then inside the provinces, you have your own selection of different home valleys. And there are a couple of considerations to think about when you and your clan are picking your start location, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So make sure you stay tuned for it. But in a nutshell, we have a whole heck of a lot of space to occupy. There's going to be 100,000 invitations going out on April 23rd. Make sure you register for the alpha by April 15th. You do that on playpaxday.com, and make sure you link your Discord alongside your Play Pax Day account, and that will increase your chances of getting access. There's also a friend code that is available, and I would recommend making a friend code with all of your close friends. It's not a guarantee that if one gets in, everyone gets in, but it does potentially help in some circumstances. But the really big one that is important is making sure that your Discord is linked. That will for sure increase your chances. Now, after that, we also had an interview with the developers, and in this interview, we talked a lot about just PvP, PvE, as well as exploration, and there were some really good questions in there. I think we talked about mounts at one point as well. So if you're interested in the PvE side of the game or the exploration side of the game, definitely go check that out. We also have a dungeon run that was in the gameplay footage in the background for that, and we have a gameplay commentary talking about that too. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to dig really deep into a lot of these things and see a lot more of the game and hear a lot more about different aspects of the game. And we have those commentaries for pretty much every week so far, with their accompanying content releases on combat, PvP, and now PvE as well. So here we do have the various maps that exist. I believe this is Ancien. Then we also have Mary. Then we also have Carries, and this is Innisgallia. Now, one thing that I did want to mention for this particular post is you might have noticed that the maps have been placed in this 4-quadrant section here. Now, that isn't unintentional. That was an intentional thing, and that's because if you were to look at the world of Pax Dei and the map of Pax Dei, this is how it is formatted. So you can take a gate that goes to Mary over here. You can take a gate that goes to Carries down here. Here's the gate from Ancien here, and then because now we're in Carries, you can take a gate to Innisgallia here. And in our commentary video and the background footage for the interview, you can actually see a very detailed view of all of the maps. That includes POIs, that includes everything that exists on each map. So if you're really, really just bent on finding out the perfect location for you or your clan to start off on with relation to different biomes and where resources might hang out, that is a really good place to go. Now, one thing, and I did say that there was kind of an important set of considerations that I have for all of you. It's really, really important for everyone to consider the fact that the PvP zone is theoretically this tiny little point that's in the middle of these 4 maps here, right? So in Ancien, you can get to it in the bottom right. In Mary, you can get to it in the bottom left. In Carries, you can get to it on the top right. And then in Innisgallia, you can get to it in the top left. So what that means is that a lot of players who are going to be focusing on PvP, they're going to be choosing regions that are very, very close to the gates to get to the PvP zone in each of these different provinces. So if you're looking for less crowded spaces and you just want to be able to expand, you don't really care that much about the PvE or PvP aspect, then you're going to want to go to locations that are kind of on the opposite side. Now, that doesn't mean to say there, like, each one of these home valleys, I am confident can hold thousands of plots worth of players. It obviously won't be able to support thousands of players all online at the same time. They would kind of split the servers a little bit in that case. But if you're looking for a more spread out place where you can fan your wings out and relax and not worry about all of that, then I would recommend looking more towards areas that are away from these gates that say to Lyonesse. Now, the inverse is also true. If you are a clan that's looking to be getting into PvP and you want to start practicing that or testing it and seeing how that all works, then I recommend being very close to these gates. For example, the Golden Company, which is the clan that I'm a part of, is located in Gravas because that has a pretty quick route to get down to Lyonesse down here. So a lot of things to consider for all of you, depending on how you want to play. In the future, I could totally see there being more zones in other outside regions that we would be able to go to and explore and also PvP in. But this is just kind of the first implementation of PvP, so they wanted to make sure that everyone had equal opportunity, so to speak. So those are some of the considerations that I wanted to mention for all of you today, but that pretty much concludes all of the new information that we got, at least in terms of this blog post. I'm not going to recover all of the stuff that we touched on in the interview. I'm just going to leave that for the interview itself. It was about 26 minutes of just straight questions and answers. It's totally worth the listen. I'm not biased, I promise. But with all of that being said, if you enjoyed this type of content, don't forget to like this video, subscribe so that you can get notified when we post any new videos, especially ones about Pax Dei. We have another interview coming out next week, and that's going to be about crafting, and you can expect there will also be a commentary video accompanying that. So definitely worth being on the lookout for, hitting that subscribe button. And then, as always, share with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. Until next time, I'm Altari the Professional Gamer.